There we are.
Sending data. I feel like Hugh Hefner at the moment, don't you?
Not quite. You know what would make me feel like Hugh Hefner?
A lot of women in here right now.
About a dozen chicks. Yes. I think we could fit a dozen in here, don't you?
I mean, I could probably put 2 on my lap.
Yeah, 2 on your lap, 2 on my lap, 1 between us. Two between us if we move the table.
A couple on their knees.
That's 6, 7, 8. I could fit 1 directly behind me, squatted down. That's 9. We could do it.
And we get at least 2 to fetch us beer and food.
We could get a couple to hang from the ceiling.
Or install one of those, portable poles.
Yes. Yeah, that's how it's done.
We need a fireplace.
That's
Which
how
one
it's
was
done
it?
right there. Fireplace. Oh, well, after the intro, we'll roll fireplace. I just want to.
Intro is 1.
0.
0.
Settle.
I gotta do 0.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and try that later. See what we got. We got 2 in the chats already. All right. So tonight, we already started to discuss this a little bit on Saturday night. I don't even remember what night it was.
It would have been Sunday, early morning.
Right. We did a huge 2.5-hour live stream, just impromptu. Wasn't planned. Just decided to do it. Anyway, in that we talked about this, what we're talking about tonight, but we're going to kind of fine tune it a little bit for tonight's show. It was actually what I had planned for this week. But also, I've actually had what's the word here? An idea, a problem? Let's go with a problem. Yeah, it was a kind of a parenting issue. So if any of you are parents out there, I'm just curious how y'all would have handled this particular situation. So, with that said, let's roll.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your host, Daniel Wagner, battles the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Alrighty, and welcome back to the Unframe of Mind show, the chill as fuck edition.
The fireplace edition.
Yeah.
I'm loving this, man. It's nice.
We're just trying to have it's almost like I can feel the warmth off this thing just a little bit. It might be just because these robes are hot as hell.
That and these lights make it hot as hell.
The lights are,
too.
yeah, the lights definitely make it really hot. So, at any rate, yeah, so basically, if you recall, what we were discussing is about the political and cultural divide. I'm just going to jump right in tonight.
Yeah.
The political and cultural divide that everybody has kind of like been at each other's throat about, and this whole idea that we're totally divided. Nobody's, like you go out in the streets and people are just strangling each other and knocking each other down with bulldozers, and launching random toothpicks at each other with rubber bands.
It's just not happening.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the whole point here is like if you actually go out and look and see what's out in the world, what's going on when in your day-to-day interactions, it's fine. Like it for the most part, it's fine. Most people are cool as fuck. They're just trying to get on with their lives.
I think a lot of it too, though, is I think people have their political differences, but I don't think that it's dividing, us amongst each other as one would have you think. I just don't see that. I just really don't.
Yeah. So I would be careful shaking your foot on that because that electrical connection on that computer is iffy at best. Sometimes I bump it and it shuts the whole thing down. We don't want that tonight.
Right.
At any rate, so the illustration I was trying to come up with was a way of kind of just sitting back and just critically thinking about this, just in general in your life, and if we just think of 100 people in your life, how many of those people actually give a shit about politics? Period. Or actually give a shit about racism issues or sexism issues or cultural immigration.
I think people care, but I don't think that it's on. I don't think it's like most of our daily lives that we're going to go out and try to save the world and fight racism, and I just don't see that.
Yeah, like it's not topic number one.
No, I mean you do have your individuals that make it a point to become political activists and in that whole sense, but I just don't think that it consumes our daily lives as much as one would have you think. I just don't.
So basically, I just want to kind of run the numbers from 100 down to what we think the problem is, and then build back out from there was the general goal here. And it's like, okay, you start with 100 people, And then let's take out everybody in that group that you think basically is just trying to live their life day to day. They're not really politically active. They're not really on Facebook debating people. They're just trying to pay the bills. And
well, I mean, unless you're on Fox or CNN's, Facebook page.
I mean, they're just sitting at home trying to. They just want to watch Netflix and
chill.
Yeah, and chill.
Like we are.
Right. Wait, we're Netflixing and chilling right now?
Well, I mean, we do have a fireplace.
Well, stay tuned.
We just need a bearskin rug is what we need.
Subscribe on Patreon for the after show.
Right.
So let's just take all those people out that just basically are a non-issue in this whole debate. Let's say what I think Saturday we said it was like 60. So I'd say it's more than that. But
I was maybe kind of lowballing it, but
yeah. So what do we say? 75 people out of 100 are just average people. Don't care. Might talk to you about it if you bring it up, but really aren't going to. Anyway, so we're left with 25 people out of 100. Out of those 25 people, how many of those people are actually even have an opinion, really, or are even on Facebook, or do you even know what their political viewpoints are because they've put so little online? Maybe a little bit, not much.
Right.
And I'd say probably another 15 of them right off the bat, leaving us what, 10 more people left?
If that, yeah.
Somebody accused us of being the Hefner show. Hey, you did say that. You should have seen the beginning. You're a little late, but yeah, we already talked about how many women we could fit in here. And
yeah.
Anyway, so you're left with 10 people, and then out of those 10 people, how many of them are like total, like okay, let's just say they're just really into it. They're being reasonable. They're being somewhat nice, assertive maybe,
right,
but not being a total jerk. What would we say, about 5, 6 of those people?
Yeah, maybe, if that.
So maybe we're down to 3 or 4 people out of the 100. Mm-hmm. And how many of those people are actually total assholes online? Just they only have their own viewpoint. They're totally, basically you can't tell them shit because they know everything. Like 1, 2 maybe?
If that, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe one of those 2 might be the ones that are actually out doing political activism, showing up at rallies, showing up with bike locks to smash people in the face, trying to burn places down. Like, so we're down to a half a person.
Yeah.
Maybe out of every 100 that might be like that. I mean, we might even go 1,000 people, and we might be able to bring it down to like 5 folks that are just out there totally just doing this shit.
But it's amazing how when you turn off the news, when you get off social media, and you step out into the world, you just don't see it unless you're integrated into that whole situation as far as being a political activist and that kind of person. It's really not as common as you would think, or the news would paint the situation to be. And I just love how it can be worked up so much for people believing that it's such a problem amongst each other, and it's not. I mean, from people I work with and just going to the store, I can't tell you how many times that people genuinely hold the door open for you. Has nothing to do with the, how old you are or, your skin color. It's just
it's not like
either you're rude or you're just, you're being polite,
It's like moments before they hold the door open for you, they look at you and they're like judging you. Okay, he's male. I think he's white, but I can't really tell. Should I open the door for him or not?
Right.
like as if there's this thought process there. Anyway, basically what I'm looking at is the media then takes that, very, very small percentage of people and puts a super big magnifying glass on those few people and then spells it out to the rest of us as if that is society, as if that is the rest of us. And that's what everybody's thinking, and that's what everybody's feeling, and everybody's doing, and everybody's out there, trying to. And it's like, but again, like you said, you look out in the world, and you're like, hey, I don't see none of this. Maybe small hints of it, maybe.
Right.
For the most part, like I'm not running into this. I'm just
not. And it's like I said Saturday night when we did the midnight edition on here. It's also one of the reasons why I do a lot of charity work, because that drives the good out of people. Mm-hmm. I'd rather not focus on the bad things you do in life. I want to try to bring out the good side of you, the good heart, the good individual that you are, and contribute to society, and to me it's being counterproductive, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the reasons I hate to think that the world is such a divided place when it's not. And so when I've done, a lot of charitable events, I can look around to the people that have such caring hearts, and they don't care about who they're giving to. And it's not like you're going to go and, I think I'm going to, well, I don't know if this person's black. I don't know if they're Mexican. So I'm not going to donate because I don't want my stuff to go to them. You don't have that.
I picture
you just don't see that. You don't.
I picture a bunch of MAGA hat wearing Christians sitting in church on Sunday as the collection plates are coming around, and they're going, well, I would put like $20 in, but I'm only going to put 10 in because I'm afraid 10 of those dollars are going to go to some black kid in the inner city. So.
Maybe not. You don't.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what
happening.
I'm
saying is when you do the charitable works, or you've been a part of something, especially in churches and outside of that realm, you start to understand or realize people don't give it a second thought. They don't care. They just generally want to help humanity. That's why I have a hard time believing that there's this division as we're seeing, on the internet and on the news. It's just I don't buy it.
The thing is that it will be a big division if we fall for it and if we believe it and if we act on it, because our actions do follow our beliefs. Right. So if we watch, if the average person's watching the news and they're thinking this is really what's going on, right, you will start to see people behaving as if that is true, right, and then becomes this like feedback loop that just gets worse and worse, and that's what they want, is for us to keep fighting.
I would hope as a society in general that humanity has a way to think, people have a way to think for themselves and not be so codependent on the news as your source of information.
Yeah, you would hope.
That's when you need to step away from your devices and televisions and actually get out there and do something productive or counterproductive.
I'm almost worried because this has happened before. Like, that this is not a new thing that the powerful elites will do is use the news media to paint a picture to get a reaction out of the people they want, to get some form of legislation passed that, while people are in an emotional frenzy, they're more willing to pass, like stuff like the Patriot Act that just totally took over so many of our freedoms, stuff like that.
No, I get that. But so let me ask you this. So because of the show that we do and we talk about political situations, do you think sometimes we drive that? As far as being the devices,
I hope that by doing shows like this, that we're, because that's all I've done basically from the beginning, is point out that you and I are not each other's enemies. The enemy is the people in charge controlling this and trying. Right. It's like there's a parent over here. We'll call that parent government, that's got their two children fighting amongst themselves and keeps trying to undermine the other one back and forth, and they get each other bickering. Right. So that way they're too busy fighting with each other, and meanwhile, Dad's over here going,
whatever.
Like now I can be free to do whatever the hell I want to do, and these two are going to go ahead and keep making, coming to me to make new rules for the household to stop the other one from doing their bullshit.
So I guess, okay, let me ask you this: what can we do for the people that think that there's such a division in this world? What would you tell those people, or what do you think that we could do to show them that it's not as divided as one would think?
So you mean like the average CNN viewer or the average Fox News viewer that's sitting there watching this stuff going, oh my God, Nancy Pelosi's the biggest idiot in the world.
Well, she is, but I mean, outside of that.
I heard this the other day, and I can't even remember who it was talking about how, it was Ron White. Ron White talking about it on the Joe Rogan Experience. This shit cracked me up. He's sitting there talking about, he was standing there at the gas station just pumping gas, and the guy across from him, didn't say hi, didn't say nothing, just said Nancy Pelosi's the biggest idiot in the world. He says, probably not. If you figure statistically. He's like, it got the guy so hot.
But no, I mean, I just kind of wondered, like, what would you tell those individuals? I mean, like, what would you?
I forgot about your question, man. That's a good question, man. I think if we can stop them and say, hey, listen, look around you for a second.
I think that's where we need to tell people to get more involved with their communities.
Yeah.
I think once you interact with more people, I know you're not a church going guy, but for the ones that are, maybe do something productive in your church.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved
I like
that way.
People out too.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a church person to be able to help people out. But what I'm saying is, I think if we ingrained ourselves within our community, maybe hopefully by seeing something, different than what we've seen on the news, it might change your perspective on what you're being told that is so divided when in all actuality it's not. So,
well, the question I think comes down to, I mean, to give you a better answer, I think what we can do for those people that are kind of stuck in the matrix, you know, there's a couple different ways you can bring it up. You can the first one is, hey, yeah, look around you, see, you know, does your reality match up with what you're seeing on TV? Does it match? Are you actually seeing this stuff going on in your world day to day, or is this just the media magnifying, like we were saying before? The other approach you can probably take is you say, listen, let's assume everything you see is absolutely true. Now what? How much power do you have to actually affect anything in this particular case? Where are some places in your life that you actually can have some impact? You know, are you spending too much time focusing on things you have no control over when really there's a fire right there in your own home? Maybe you've got some kids that aren't, you know, maybe you have kids and you don't have a great relationship with them. Maybe you have a spouse that all you do is sit there on your phones and don't talk to each other.
Right.
You know, maybe there's something in your community that people are struggling and you can help with, you know, that you actually can have some kind of impact on. You know, that's another approach you probably could take. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but those are just a couple things that come to mind.
Well, like I said, I think that's more or less getting out in the community, getting out and, you know, spending time with your friends, just doing something that is more productive than sitting on your devices, watching the news, and hearing the things that would make you believe or want to believe that we are so divided.
Yeah.
I think once you put yourself in a situation where you start to see that it's not the case, hopefully, like I said before, it'll change your mind. It'll change your your perspective on what you're actually being told versus what you're seeing.
Right.
And I think that might be the problem is that if we set everything to the side and we start thinking for ourselves. I know that might be kind of daunting to do,
you're
but
you're
it's asking
a lot.
I know, but why have we become so dependent on the news stations and social media to be our source of news when I don't think that's really given us, I think we're only getting 5% of what's really going on in the world. So how do you get the 95% that you're not getting?
Not even that.
But that's what I'm saying. I think
All right, I'm sorry. I gotta hit the comment section. We'll work our way back. Harry the swamp cleaner is hopping, and he said, "Hey, stop stealing my look." And I when you brought it up, I completely, the first person that came to mind was Harry the swamp cleaner.
What's that?
When I was on his show, he dressed in a robe, drinking red wine with a big MAGA. He's got this giant MAGA poster behind him and everything. He's just sipping on red wine. It's awesome. Rick says people need to sit in living rooms with the door open and talk with friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard that, man. I told my kids, and I need to get back on this, to be honest, is I told my kids, listen, if you're going to be on your device, let's at least bring them all out in the living room or something, so we're at least around each other, you know, because we get in the habit sometimes of going off to our own individual corners of the rooms, right. You know. Rick also says, tell them to chill out and MAGA. Uncle Netcutter. I don't know who Uncle Netcutter is. It sounds like a great name, though. Anyway, people think they're professors by watching a 50-second news segment, and then they just submit to the mental programming. Yeah, it's absolutely right. And Mayra, she was a guest on our show recently. She says, good thing I wasn't guest on the robe day.
Oh, man. She
There's still time.
In a robe.
There's still time. There's still time. Don't worry. We'll get you back on.
So let me ask you this. So we've been, and I know this wasn't on the scripted part of the show for tonight, and I noticed we don't have him anywhere in sight, but
no, I didn't. I printed no notes. I'm trying something new tonight.
Okay, cool. So
if you haven't noticed, you know, we're in robes.
So so obviously we have an interview coming up this week. Okay. Tomorrow. Yes. And do you want to tell folks who we're actually going to have on, and then probably upload the video at a later time, or do you just kind of want to keep that on the down low?
Let's, like I said, I like to wait until after we actually have it recorded, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, if I would have told folks that I had another guest on that I just recently had on,
Uh-huh.
it wouldn't have worked out because the actual recording was not great. There was too many long pauses, stutter. It was an editing nightmare, and it was very awkward between the two of us. And I told him that he totally understood, and I was like, it's just not gonna work out. It wouldn't be a great experience for the audience, and
So-
that's who I put very first in this show is the audience. I want them to be able to want to watch it and not have to. It was that bad.
Well, I mean, I kind of wish she wasn't going to be on the live show, but I know the recording is probably going to be a little bit better. But I am looking forward to it. All things work out. I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation.
Absolutely. I'm not even sure what we're going to do, but anyway. Uncle Neckcutter says many things you can do to help the community or needy, help the elderly, the homeless, the handicapped, the small farmer, learn children to read properly or whatever. Somebody's Southern as hell. You got to learn them children. Just kidding. Love you, man.
I think it was your grandmother Saturday night that said, "Yer." Y-E-R.
Y-E-R, yeah.
Like,
it's amazing how people's accents and their certain dialects come out in their typing. It's amazing.
So let me ask you this though: how did you think Saturday Night Show went? Because I had a good time doing that, man. That was a lot of fun.
I did too. And if you haven't watched it, I mean, if you just want to throw it on the background and just listen, it was a fantastic show, actually. Surprisingly.
Do you have that uploaded in podcast form yet?
I did not. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't figure that. I thought that was kind of a unique, special thing. I just wanted to leave it as was. I don't know that it would play as well as a podcast, to be honest. Maybe, but I don't know. But anyway, basically, we decided we were going to do one. You kept asking me. I'm like, shit, I don't know. And
you were the one that kept showing me The Office and how good it looked.
Well, that was earlier in the night because I was just happy because
lighting
we
and the
fucking
effects
cleaned it.
And
yeah,
I think after a couple of rounds of drinks, we were like, "Oh, fuck it, let's just go ahead and do it."
I thought we were going to do like a 30-minute show. Like I legit thought it was going to be like a short little thing. We're going to come back here and screw around with the guitars a little bit.
I did not think that it was going to end up being a 2.5-hour show.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me that, it was just, I think that, we just got onto those conversations that just kind of took off. And, it was nice because we weren't following a script. We weren't doing anything that was normally what we do on Wednesday shows. Right. So it was really nice to be able just to kind of have those conversations and it not be political because sometimes it is nice to have those shows where we're not talking
We really
politics.
need to know what y'all think about that kind of format and that kind of show, that subject matter, because that's really, I mean, like the theme of tonight's show too is just, doing things that you have control over, going back and finding ways that you can actually have some kind of effect over your world. And that's where I really want to focus more of our energy on is in those arenas where people can call in or whatever, write in with their questions and tell us what kind of issues they're dealing with, and maybe we can basically like give some kind of relationship advice, but based within the philosophies that we follow. And maybe help that way. That's something that we can do.
Well, I think it's always fun to talk politics, but not necessarily all the time.
Sure.
Because I think that there's such a broad range of things that are going on out in the world that can be actually productive to conversation rather than, you keep looking at the comment section just to laugh, and I'm sitting there having a thoughtful conversation with you. God, just like a typical woman, man.
Uncle Neckcutter is having a blast over here. He's Scandinavian, or she, and might be harvesting some cotton with them kids later. Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
It's so not even spelled correctly. That's awesome.
Wait, harvesting cotton with Democratic kids? No, that's not happening. We know better than that. I know what you meant. So that's just a little hint of the direction of the show we're wanting to go, I think. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to like make it something more, talk about the big picture, but also talk about the, the small micro, like the family unit, the community, things you can do around you, things that you can do to have an impact. And
I think with the show too, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily know us that well. Mm-hmm. So when you get the impression or when you watch this show, that's all you have to go off of is just by hearing the political side of things.
Yeah.
So that's what was interesting and fun about Saturday Night Show is we touched on so many different topics. I
love that.
Obviously we're not going to do 2.5 hours again, but I mean, if we do, we'll let you know and come and hang out with us.
I don't want to recap the whole show. If you want to watch it, go watch it. We played some guitar. I sucked ass, and pretty much it. And then we figured out later that I could have plugged my guitar in to the mixer board, and y'all would have been able to hear the guitar. Maybe,
but we had been drinking, so I don't think it really mattered.
Yeah, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Well, and I know I hadn't been on the I hadn't been on the show. I wasn't here last Wednesday, obviously for family reasons, and And so now that things are kind of getting back to normal, it allows me to kind of focus on other things that are currently going on. It was a little kind of touch and go there for a couple of weeks, with my stepdad. And so now that he's finally home and, he's still under hospice care, it's just, I told him, and he's had some pretty good days. Yesterday wasn't so good, but he's had some good days. And, I talked to him for a little while, and he seemed to have his wits to him. And he ended up having a massive stroke, which was the day after my birthday. And, and we thought it was the inevitable that he was not going to make it through the week. And, and that's when I told you, I said, well, we'll just, I'm going to skip out on the show. And I was making arrangements to fly down to Tampa, and life just threw my family a huge curveball. And it was just like I really just stopped everything I was doing and just started to kind of focus in on family.
And that's the most important thing you could have done.
Right. So it's why I wasn't on last Wednesday's show. And so I'm in touch with my mom, and she just celebrated her big 60th, and you know that. And so it's just it's hard for me to be in in Tennessee, and they're down in Tampa, and it's not like I can just kind of go down the street and check up on them and see them and all that. But it's just I can't thank people enough for the prayers and support and things that are going out to my family right now. But he is doing better. I do talk to Jim, my stepdad, pretty frequently now, and it just really having more of an appreciation for my time that I do have left with him.
It's all about them priorities, man.
It is. And
you told me you weren't going to be here Wednesday. I'm like, yeah, duh. Go do your thing, man.
Well, it's just
I can hold down the fort.
For me, I just turned 38, and it just it really kind of put things into perspective.
Right.
My mom just turned 60, and it's just obviously. It's just we know our final outcome in life. And I just didn't think that it was going to happen as quick as it was, or start progressing that way from my stepdad.
Yeah. You knew it was coming, just not.
Well, I
knew
it was coming. It just, I think for me is I talked to him on my birthday, man, and he sounded great. We were, I'm going down in July to visit for a week with them, and we were talking about what we were going to do, and then all of a sudden, the very next day, I'm driving here for the live show, and my mom calls me, and she's bawling her eyes out, and she was just like, Jim is being life-flighted to Sarasota Memorial, and I'm like, how different did life just completely turn itself upside down for me?
Complete 180.
And it just
slammed on the brakes.
1 minute I'm celebrating my birthday, and I talk to him, and he sounds great, and then the next day he's being life flighted, and it's like, what the fuck? And then
so do you feel like, because this is kind of what people ask themselves in the moment, is like, especially if you didn't have a good relationship with the person, maybe you feel like I could have had maybe I could have done more, maybe I should have called,
No, I've got a fantastic relationship
you
with
actually
my stepdad.
You focus on your family enough that's not even a worry. I almost want to advise people that don't have those great connections, relationships, is, hey, call the people in your life, because like you just said, this shit could happen in a snap of fingers.
Well, let me kind of give you an idea, and paint a synopsis of this. Is that for 35 years of my life, before my folks moved down to Tampa, I literally had my family right down the road from me. No more than an hour. It was a drive for me to go see them. Now it's it's a 2 hour flight, or it's a 15-hour drive.
Holy shit!
For me to have that time with my family.
Is Tampa down in like a southern?
Well, Tampa's on the west coast of Florida, but where my folks live is about an hour south of Tampa. It's Sarasota, Bradenton.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to get that time over the last 3 years, I make several trips down to Tampa, and I really enjoy those trips because it gives me that time to spend with them. I either take my daughter or I just go down myself, but I make the most of it now because both of my folks are getting up in age. I find that most of my trips are going down there and doing a lot of things around the house to help them out, which and it's funny because I thoroughly enjoy it, because it makes me feel like I'm really contributing to help them out, even though I'm not there all the time. Mm-hmm. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's nice. I actually enjoy that. So yeah, it's just as of right now, he's in home hospice, and and I'm still planning on going down in July, and hopefully I'll see my stepdad then. If not, we have decided to wait until the inevitable. And then, when I discussed this with my mom, I told her, I said, well, I'd rather be there for you after the fact, because I think that's when she's going to need the most emotional support, I guess you could say. And it makes more sense. I don't want my mom by herself when she's going through something like that.
Yeah, plus with work and stuff, you've only got a certain amount of time you can take off, so you kind of have to plan it. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So let's just hope that July gets here. And I fly down. I spend a week with them, both of them.
Right.
And, so that's kind of the area of life that I'm currently in right now, the season that I'm going through. So, that's why I wasn't doing less. I don't mean to draw this out, but I think that, part of what we found on this show is that when you talk about uncomfortable conversations, this is uncomfortable. You're talking about death. Yeah. A lot of people struggle with that. I've never had to experience death this close to me before. So this will, hopefully...
And you're getting at that age of your life where it's going to be a more common occurrence. Too.
Yeah. Well, at 38 years old, I still have all my grandparents but my grandfather, and I still have all my family. I've never really had to experience death as much as, say, the most average individual has.
Sure.
And so to be almost 40 years old, I would consider myself to be extremely blessed to know that. So, but that was just kind of touching base on that.
Little update. Yeah,
definitely
keep us updated for sure. And this following, to change subject slightly, this about parents and stuff. There was something that I had run into this week, and it was my kids are on spring break, and one of my daughters wants to spend the night at a friend's house.
Right.
Well, we were going to let her go over there, and then we got some information from another child, also my daughter's friend. And I want you to kind of see. I want to see how you would handle the situation if you were faced with this. But basically, we found out that whole household is very toxic.
Toxic in what sense?
The father treats the mom like garbage and yells at her and all that stuff. And the parents sit there and call the daughter fat, and yet they're the ones buying all the stuff for her to have.
Yeah.
And it's just a few detail. I don't want to give too much detail because it's not that's their business. But basically, the long story short is it was a very toxic environment over there. I didn't fear for my daughter's safety. I didn't think anything would happen to her.
Maybe not mentally conducive for her.
But yeah, I guess the situation was I felt like she didn't need to go over there at all. I said the little girl's welcome to come over here and spend the night. Because I work very hard to create an environment where people can be safe and not, no abuse, no yelling, no, none of that stuff. I mean,
right.
and they can just feel relaxed, so that's the kind of thing I try to set up. And I want people to feel welcome to come to my home.
Right.
But when I heard about that, it really pissed my daughter off. She was really upset because she really wanted to go over and spend the night with her friend. So
I don't think kids at that age quite understand the effects of mental abuse, I guess is what you would call it. When you see parents yelling at each other, their kids, that does a psychological damage to a young mind. It's one of the reasons why I don't do that with my daughter. I don't yell at her. All I have to do is just raise my voice, and because my voice is as deep as it is, it gets her attention. That's all I got to do.
Be assertive.
Right. But I don't have to be dominating, the conversation or my daughter to get her attention.
Yeah.
I don't need to yell at her. And I think that's the, if your daughter is seeing that, I don't know if it's something that she just ignores and moves on from, or if it's something that if she's around it enough, she would start to pick up those tendencies.
See, that's the concern is,
right.
You don't want to put your kid in an environment, obviously an abusive environment. You don't want to do that. That's pretty straightforward. Yeah. No, hell no, you're not going over there.
Mm-hmm.
They've got sharp edges everywhere. They got 3 broken windows,
It's pretty bad then, isn't it?
No, I don't. I'm just saying if it was that kind of situation, if it's some kind of like, they got roaches, like, oh, obviously that's, you don't want to send them to that because that's a health risk.
Yeah.
That's physical danger that you're putting them in. But when you're talking about just a generally toxic environment in terms of like the atmosphere, the mood, the way the parents treat the kids, the way the parents treat each other, etc., it's like you don't want to expose your kid to that any more than necessary, if that's even that. I don't think it's necessary, but
well, I think it's as parents we're looking out for our children.
Yeah,
they see it as we're telling them what to do.
Yeah.
I don't think they quite understand the difference, and then depending on which child it is and the age, I don't think they probably
12.
Yeah, at 12 years old, you're not comprehending that.
No, not at all.
You know, I guess if I was in that situation, I would probably sit Kelly down and explain to her that there's just there's some things that aren't good that I don't want you to necessarily see or be a part of.
Right.
I would feel more comfortable if you guys were here. Now, kids have a tendency of wanting to get away from home. Not that they don't want to be at home. I think it's just it's a different atmosphere, and you know it's fun for them. But I don't think that there's an underlying cause that might not be good, as far as our perspective of saying, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. Why don't you have her stay the night, or him stay the night, whatever. Yeah. So I don't think kids at that age quite understand that we're just looking out for you.
And I don't tell my kids no unless I've got a damn good reason. For the most part, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And she has spent the night over there before, I believe, if I remember right. But in light of new information, you got to kind of shift things up a little bit,
Right.
So the plot thickens.
Okay.
Later. And I've already kind of got a sense of this little girl, and I can tell that the girl herself is deeply affected by the environment she comes up in. And what I mean by that is when I first met her, the only image I got in my mind was somebody who has a constant storm cloud hanging over her head.
Right.
Like just her general attitude, her demeanor.
The behaviors. And
yeah, just everything about her screamed, I've got a fucking storm cloud over my head, and I'm going to let everybody know it. It was just that. It was very, very negative, very down on herself, very, just like that. Like, woe is me, feel sorry for me.
So what about explaining that to your daughter, saying, maybe she's not in the best conditions in her home and in her environment. Mm-hmm. Let's bring her over here where things aren't so chaotic, things aren't so toxic.
Yep.
And maybe give her a sense of freedom of not having to see things, not having to hear things. And you would hope as a parent that you're trying to help a child, but without saying anything, to them. Just by bringing them over here, it gives them, a safe place to want to play, to hang out, to stay the night. They don't have to worry about, when they go to bed, if there's any arguing and fighting and screaming and slamming doors. And have you thought about maybe kind of talking to her about that, or have you?
Are you talking about my daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, I already have. Yeah. Which after she got upset and we sat her down and me and my wife talked to her and spelled out exactly what it was. You could tell she was still kind of bummed, but she gets it. She's like, I understand. I'm still upset about it. I'm not going to tell her she can't be upset about it, but I am going to tell her that she was acting irrationally when she went through a fit and went and locked herself in the room. Like that might have been a little too, because I'm also trying to parent her too at the same time, like about how to manage her emotions when she doesn't get her way, for example. This is many things going on here.
But I think as parents, we often forget that they're children. They don't understand the dynamics of things the way we do.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why with Kel, my daughter, I'm not so quick to jump on her if she gets upset with me about something. Mm-hmm. Because I know in the back of my mind she does not have the capacity to understand why we feel or why we do things the way we do. We see life in such a broad perspective versus the mind of a 12-year-old, because she's fixing to turn 12 in May. And
I can't believe she's that old.
Yeah.
Or that young. She comes off to me as much more mature.
I know.
And just like my 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Like just if I told you she was 14, you didn't know, you'd be like, no way. She's got to be like almost adult.
I know.
Like the way she behaves.
It's just the way that she is and the way that she talks and her mannerisms. It's just it's crazy. But I also like to think that as parents, and especially fathers, we're doing a hell of a job if our kids are coming across that way. At least, that's my thought on that. But I think that's, as parents, we tend to forget that they're not on the same level. They're not on that same thinking process as we are. And I think that's where sometimes we have to.
Here's where things get a little more complicated. Is me and my wife, this is the second or third time this girl's been over here.
Right.
And like I said, every time storm cloud, and today it was like, we're pretty sure she might be a liar too. Like very manipulative, the way she treats the other kids. Like it's like she doesn't know she's not aware of doing it, but
Why
she
do
just
I feel like Dr. Phil at the moment?
Is doing it
In a bathrobe.
No, this is this is the important shit. This is the uncomfortable conversation that we're talking about.
I know.
It's like, and this is another one that I'm fixing to have with her and say, listen, I don't think it's a good idea to even have her over at the house, because there was 3 girls over here. 2 of them wanted to go outside and play and do stuff, and the other one's like dragging her feet the whole time. She don't want to do nothing. So I came home from work and told them to go outside. And you know what she talked the other 2 into doing?
What?
Sitting on their phones. They went and sat in the shed with the door shut on their phones. I opened the door. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Go play. Go do something. You're 12.
This is, I don't think that you should not have her back over.
Well, it was not so much. Sorry, I forgot a detail. She actually was sitting there saying, well, my mom said I wasn't allowed to go outside. Have you ever met in your life, an entire life, a parent that would say, no, you're not allowed to go outside?
Most parents today want their kids to go outside.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, did you call your mom and ask? And she's like, she didn't really answer me, but I got the feeling like she got caught in that lie. Like, my mom didn't really say that.
I think with children that are kind of in this place, as her friend is, I think that because of her I guess family background or maybe environment is where us as parents, it's that are on the outside of this looking in. I feel like sometimes we abandon children like this. I have to remind myself, if Kelly had a friend that came over.
What do you mean by that, abandon him?
Well, what I'm saying is, because you mentioned something about her coming over, and she may not want her to come back over anymore. I have to disagree with that, because I think that this is where us as parents can probably maybe instill something different, and not necessarily our own children, but make them understand or talk to them and say, hey, I don't know how things are done at your home, but here, this is how we do things.
Right. Well, here's the reason I say that, and maybe you'll still disagree with me, and that's perfectly okay. But there's been a lot of other kids that come from bad backgrounds that do come over to our house that do behave differently when they're here, and you can tell that they're actually appreciating the environment they're in. Like I've had you remember the redhead kid that's here looks to me like a father figure, because he is so respectful. He's so nice. He's not that way at home, and I know this. I talked to his mom, his grandmother he lives with. Like, he's got a terrible situation, but when he comes here, he's still honest. He's behaving appropriately. He's not acting a total fool. He's not dragging everybody else down with him. It's like, at some point, when, like I said, she's already been over here maybe 2, 3, 4 times now. And it's like the same thing every time, and she's not very receptive to advice. She's not very receptive to it. And it's like, at what point do I kind of say, you know what, this is probably time to, there's got to be at some point. I mean, you agree with that at least? At some point, I got to say, she's obviously not trying to adapt here.
But sometimes, some kids take longer than others to adapt to different environments. And if you're coming from a toxic home, as you say that this child is, it may take longer, depending on how bad the situation is. And
at what cost to my own kids, though?
Well,
that's my concern. I mean,
I know, but this kind of goes back to the abandonment that I feel like, and I'm not doing this to guilt you or anything like that. I just,
I hear you.
I think that
I just like to hear other parents' perspectives. So I mean,
to me, I don't want to give up on kids, because I've worked with so many kids over the years with a lot of things that I've done, and I know that it's a challenge. Yeah. And it's easier to walk away from a situation, or kids that just don't want to change. But then I'm looking at myself kind of like, I can make a legitimate difference in this child's life for the sake that this is, my daughter's friend. And if I can, maybe I can work with her on something. Maybe I can sit her down and talk to her and kind of have like a not too deep conversation, but deep enough to have with the 12-year-old. I'm assuming she's 12.
Yeah, she's same age.
So
same class. Yeah.
Just kind of almost in a sense be a mentor. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. At least give it a shot. At least talk to her. At least maybe be a little bit more proactive with her. And not saying that you're not, because I don't know the situation, sure. But I think that you have a possibility of changing the life of another child that's not necessarily yours.
This is more just coming from a place that, I'm pretty good at reading people. I've learned to trust my gut on this. Right. I have interacted with her enough to get a sense of what I could do with her if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Is she receptive to stuff at all, even small things? And she's not, at all. Like so far,
like I said,
she's very, very, very stubborn. She's very very
as most kids usually are. But
I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's just I have to kind of still make the determination. You know, if it was just me and that girl trying to help her, and I'm the only one being impacted, that's different. But it's also impacting my daughter's other friends, my other sibling, or her other siblings that are here. Like I have to take that into account too, as part of the calculus of it all. And at there's got to be a point. At some point, I feel like that I've got to say, no, what, that's probably not a good influence on you. You know, maybe she'll change, and we'll give her another chance later on. Maybe she'll mature a little bit. I don't know, but you know, just there's other areas we can devote our time to where it'll be more impactful.
Yeah, I mean, I would still give it maybe some consideration or thought, and then give it a few more, tries.
Yeah.
And then,
I suppose a few more times ain't gonna hurt nothing.
No, I don't think it is. I think that sometimes kids get so mentally damaged, it's hard to undo that. Yeah, because you're hardwired that way.
This girl's a pretty big girl. She looks. I feel bad for her. I really do. You know, I'm not mad at her. I don't blame her at all. So I don't want to get that kind of image across that I'm.
No.
I'm not even remotely blaming her at all. But she's also just.
I think as
a product of her environment.
Well,
unfortunately,
I just feel like as parents, we have that moral obligation to change our children's lives or develop them in such a way to be honest, caring, giving, and so forth. And I think kind of maybe approaching her from a mentor standpoint might actually help.
That's an interesting point, though. I guess the question might be also, should I care for a kid more than her own parents care for her?
I think that you should care about everybody the way you care about your family. I do, because I think that, I think that that's just the dynamic of life, that if we show, human compassion for others, especially for children. Man, I've got a weak spot for kids. I've done a lot of, I've done a lot of things for Vanderbilt Children's Hospital over the years. And I think for some reason I draw closer to children because the significant impact that you can have on their life, and you want them to know that that people care. People genuinely care about their outcome in life, and you just want to see good things for them. Yeah. So I would say give it a couple more chances. And maybe mentor to her, and maybe sit her down and just say, hey, we like having you over, but here's some things that, need to change in order for you to be in my home.
Well, I'm not going to lie to her, first of all.
No. I'm not saying that you're going to lie to her. I'm just saying.
By starting off with, we like having her over.
Well, I mean, for the sake of your daughter, and for her being her friend. I just like the fact that, your daughter is willing to be friends with her or wants to be friends with her, knowing the environment in which she comes from, and I guess that's where it falls back to where our perception differs from a 12-year-old's mind frame. Sure. So we see it as problems and toxic relationships and, and things of that nature. Your 12-year-old daughter looking at it like, well, she's just my friend. We get along. We like hanging out. This, that, and the other. So, I mean that.
I feel like there's more at play here, but I'm not trying to get into all the gory details. I do
feel
like there's definitely more at play.
I think
as far as the dynamics between them, because my daughter tends to be like a follower. She tends to be wanting to be like follows everybody else. So she's very, very suggestible, and this other girl is very headstrong and very, like I said, very stubborn and very like, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it. She's almost like she does have the capacity to be a great leader if she could hone that skill and make it less. You have to remind yourself she's only 12. Yeah, so she does have potential if she can kind of get past her environment right now and get past feeling sorry for herself because her parents aren't helping her in that regard. They're blaming her for being big and yet buying her the crap to eat. Wow. She come over here with so much junk snacks, but it's like, what are y'all doing? You can't like. I hate to see that shit, because that in my mind is child abuse, to have a child that's like morbidly obese. Yeah. And you keep feeding her that shit, and you know how to fix it, and you keep on doing it. It's like a slow burn child abuse.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man. Let's give it a couple more times, and then we'll check back in on the show, and we'll find out.
We'll see what happens.
What's going on?
We'll see what happens.
Let's get caught up with the chat.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. I've seen a little bit of stuff going on here.
All right, what do we got?
Oh boy. Okay, so your cousin hopped in. Max says, "Hey, cuzzo, are you cuzzo?"
Cuzzo, he's my cuzzo.
Oh, I'm not sure what that means. That sounds dirty.
Cousin.
I know it. Thank you for clarifying that. That's, man. Uncle Neckcutter said, "You're a very bright fellow, Beard Man." I must be Beard Man. I'm guessing I'm Beard Man. The potential psychological damage comes later if you mentally break down a young person's mind.
And then Walter said, "Care for her like she's yours when she's in your care." Absolutely.
Right on.
Becky said, "Absolutely." Debbie, your child might be meant to change her friend's life, set an example. Yeah, that's what we were discussing. So yeah, we'll check back, and
it's really like I said, just all about the balance of at what point. Like that's really my main question is like, yeah, I'm willing to keep monitoring the situation. I might give it a little bit longer. I still feel like there's got to be a cutoff point at some point. I can't just put all my energy in forever on somebody that I know damn well is not going to be receptive to it. That's my big thing.
I know. Again,
like I've had a number of adult friends that are the same way. It's like you
adults
try to
are
keep
different than children.
I mean, you keep trying to give advice, you keep trying to help, and if they don't want to be helped, you're not going to be able to help them.
But I think adults have the capacity to make that change. They just choose not to.
Oh, kids do too.
Well, yes,
kids definitely do too.
I think
most of your personality traits are fully developed by age 5. Like most of what you're going to be dealing with for the rest of your life is already done by 5.
But I think the comprehension the change to the level of which we want to see sometimes might far exceed the age in which they're at. So it kind of depends.
Joel said, "I think your fire needs poking." I like that he used this little emoji right here.
That's great. It is kind of nice. It is warm as
that's hot as
fuck
shit.
in here.
I know. I'm so ready to get rid of this thing. Oh yeah. Anyway,
I have no chest hair. I have no body hair, and this is like a month at best. This is a month.
I thought when you said I have no chest hair, I thought you like waxed or shaved your chest. Oh shit, you just don't grow it. Oh,
I cannot, man. It's like it was not in the deck of cards in the gene pool for me whatsoever.
All right, so let's wrap this thing up by introducing folks to our favorite segment of the show, the Phobismist. And I'll tell you, it is 7, but just to be clear, if for those of you that are just joining us for the first Phobismist, a Phobismist is someone who takes basically any topic, any item, any person, place, thing, and tells you how you should be offended by it. It's the combination of the word phobism and ist to create a brand new profession. It doesn't pay very well, but somebody's got to do the job.
Phobismist.
Alrighty. And
fireplace.
On today's Phobismist, we're going to teach Anthony how to produce the show. I heard about this a while back, and it just I had a memory relapse, if you will, and just thought, you know what? Let's see if Anthony's A, heard of this, and B, if he can tell us how we should be offended by it. So what I want you to do is click that. I'll click the second tab. I just need you to click number 4 so the rest of the audience can see what we're being offended by today.
Number 4.
Number 4. No. Yeah. Number 4. All right.
Well,
so what we're looking at is a used panty vending machine. In Japan. Used panties. Basically, the idea or the lore is still has yet to be proven correct or not, but the lore is that women they'll wear a pair of panties for about a day, and then you put them in one of those little vending machine balls, and then men can then buy your used panties and sniff them. It's an interesting fetish. You've never heard of this, huh?
No. I don't really know how you can get offended by that. I'm sure something will come to mind, but I'm actually kind of trying to check out the different styles. I'm a little distracted.
You're like
I'm in a bathrobe.
I'm in a bathrobe looking at panties, trying to determine which one is for me. Oh, that's interesting.
I guess I'm offended at the fact that why would you want to wear somebody else's panties?
Oh, it's not to wear. It's because dudes like to sniff girls' panties, and this is the way they can do that without
Are you serious?
The commitment. Yeah, that's a thing.
Wait a minute. I thought this was for women to buy other women's panties. You
mean
to tell
it's
me
for dudes to buy, because dirty perverts to buy and sniff. That's why.
Is this a thing over there? Is this Japan?
The women,
or
this is in Japan. This is why the women are supposed to wear them first, and then package them. Now I don't think they actually do wear them. I think what they do is they spray some kind of perfume or scent on it, and then they package it, and then they mass produce these things.
Don't second guess that. There's probably men out there that love to put those on.
They probably would put them on.
I mean, come on.
I saw one video on YouTube where a guy bought a couple of them, and he opened them up, and he was actually surprised that they were actually decent quality panties for about $5.
So they buy these out of a vending machine. They sniff them.
That's it.
I don't even.
More than likely, they do a little bit more after that. I would guess while they're sniffing them.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
So here's the first thing I noticed is,
and I got to be honest with you, because you have daughters, I have daughters.
Mm-hmm.
How sick and disgusting would it be? No, I'm not even going to have that thought.
You already had it. And then you alluded to it, and all of us are sitting here going, "Yeah, you were thinking about what if you accidentally bought a pair of your daughter's panties?"
No, I'm just thinking about other perverts smelling my daughter's panties. That is
you weren't thinking about you buying them to sniff them?
No.
Oh, well, I
that
was.
Just you're fucking.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, so what I'm thinking here, this was obviously offensive when I first clicked on this picture, and what I am offended by.
I wouldn't say I would be offended. I would be more or less turned on. But now that
no. We got to put on our phobismus hats now.
It's hard to do that.
It's hard, isn't it?
Well, I guess if you buy a pair of panties, you might get hard. Hell, I don't know. At this point, it's anybody's game.
But look at this. Look at the homogeneity here. There's what if I wanted to buy a little pair of African American panties, or an Indian girl's pair of panties, or some kind of like an Eskimo panty, or maybe I just want to buy a regular white girl panty.
What if she shaves or doesn't shave?
Well, I don't know. I'm just
saying.
You
can't buy those little teeny itty bitty ones.
Pretty racist
if you
panties.
Ain't shaving, man.
That's all I'm saying.
You got that cat just flaring out of its corner, but.
Yeah, no kidding. I need to see something with like pigtails coming out the side. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like.
We need to braid those damn things.
Yeah. So that's one reason we should be offended by this.
I guess not.
Also offended because they didn't put in any English. There's no English on there. I should be able to read that. If I go to their country, they need to change their ways for me, and I need to have English on everything. Just like we have to have Spanish on every goddamn thing around here.
Yeah, because if I walk up to that and I have no idea what it is, I'm thinking, I'm gonna get this for my girlfriend.
I'm looking at
wife.
I'm looking at girls' names on there. Like, this must be Susan, Soon-Wee. This one here is Bill. Except I can't read it, so you don't know. It could be a trans, panties. You don't know.
Me love you long time.
Yeah. So
I'm having a hard time with this one, man. That is just sick on so many different realms. I'm not even. I can't even.
You're gonna have to quit staring at it and click one now.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm just the fact that I just don't even know.
So this is Japan. We talking about someone wore them before. Just kidding. I need to wrap your head around it. Instead, just wrap them around your head. That's great.
Came in at
That's great.
At the right time.
Oh yeah.
She
came in at the right time.
If you can look past the phobismus part, this was actually a pretty good show. But
no, the phobismus is what makes our show our show. We got to tell people how, there's lots of things out there in the world that people don't yet know how to be offended by, and we need to provide that service. Okay,
we could be offended by anything. It's
I
just
know,
trying
that's the
to get
point.
past the mental aspect of knowing that. A woman will put on a pair of panties and then you turn them in. Do they get paid for that?
Oh, dude, there's women. Okay, I have heard legit. There's a woman that makes a lot of money by wearing her socks all day, going jogging in them and getting real sweaty in them, and then she will send them to men, and men will pay good money for her sweaty socks.
The fuck is
she
wrong with
makes
people?
a living doing this. Yeah,
I'm in the wrong.
No, you're
business.
the wrong gender.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can self-identify as
that's true.
A sweaty running jogger woman.
All right, y'all been watching the Unframe of Mind show where we have clearly some uncomfortable conversations without a condom.
Or panties, whichever.
All right,
Good
y'all.
night, folks.
Until next week, stay doing whatever.